Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Got a video from the garage, and today's video is going to be a special one. We're going to be going over my favorite knives. And this is a big topic. And this video was actually suggested, it was asked for by a viewer, Chase Wells. So thank you for asking. And I've put a lot of thought into the knives that we're going to be going over today. We've got my 15 favorite knives. And I want to talk a little bit about my methods in constructing this video. Videos like this are no stranger to knife YouTube, right? List videos in general are very, very popular. I mean, every day I go on YouTube and it seems like there's a dozen new videos, 10 knives you can't live without, 20 knives that are the best of all time. And I mean, nothing against those videos. I will put those on sometimes while I'm like washing dishes, doing chores, and I'll watch the shit out of those. But they can get a little bit monotonous, right? They get old pretty quick. And so there's a few things that I want to keep in mind while putting this video together to avoid kind of being like a lot of those other videos. And one of the things that I first noticed I would have to deal with is recency bias. And actually, there's just a bunch of biases. Like one knife that I almost put on this list, just kind of instinctually, I was like, ooh, the Sincut Serene. I really, really like that knife. Let's put it in the list. And then I had to slow down, but okay, this is a knife that I do really enjoy. And I guess this part's not quite so much recency bias. It's kind of a new release. It's a new release for me. I know my channel, we don't review everything on time all the time, but I had to kind of sit back and go, okay, let me really think about this. Another knife that I almost put on this list was the Steel Wheel Sedge. I love this knife, absolutely love this knife, and it might be on the list one day, but this one's definitely recency bias. I reviewed this knife just recently, and it's a knife that's been really fresh on my mind. But do I think that it quite deserves to be on the list yet? No, I don't really think so. And the other thing I had to deal with is just the bias of, I tried to separate this video out as like, okay, knives that I think are really great, that I recommend to a lot of people, and knives that I think are actually my favorites. Because there are a lot of knives that I think are amazing, that I recommend consistently. And some of these knives are like the Spyderco PM2, the Rat 1, the Civivi Praxis. Those are three knives that I absolutely love and I recommend them a lot. And they're three knives that I definitely am going to keep in my collection forever. One reason being because all those knives just happen to be size comparison knives I use on the channel, so they're very useful in that sense. But also because I think they're very important, and I think that my collection would feel a little bit empty without them. They're great knives, and I do recommend them all the time. But I don't necessarily think that my connection with them is enough to make them my favorite. And the other side of this list is that I'm trying to be kind of objective. Now, take that with a massive grain of salt. Obviously, like any list video, this is a very subjective topic, but I'm trying to separate my favorite knives into I like this knife because it's a knife, and I like this knife because I have sentimental attachment to it. Because there are a lot of knives that I have sentimental attachment to. And if we were making that video, this is a knife that would be on that video. Absolutely. This Elk Ridge Bowie knife, this was given to me by my dad when I was 14. I love this knife. This is absolutely one of my favorite knives of all time. I love this knife. But I love the sentimental value of this knife more than the actual knife itself. The knife means more to me as an object than it does as a functional knife, as a tool. So for that reason, I'm leaving sentimental knives out of this video for the most part. There are some very sentimental knives that are going to be on this video, but I'm trying to separate do I like this knife because only because it's sentimental, or do I like this knife because it might be sentimental, but it's also a really, really great knife? So we're going to be getting into a lot of that. Now, if you do want to see a video of a list of my favorite sentimental knives, I have made that video in the past. I'll leave a card here on the screen if I remember. I made that video a long time ago. It was an open tag video. Lots changed since then, so that video might not be 100% applicable to me today, but if you guys want to see that video remade, let me know. I might be able to make that happen. Okay, so first of all, I do want to get a couple of honorable mentions out of the way and talk about something else. That's a caveat with this list. I know we're 6 minutes into the video. I'm sorry, guys. But there are a lot of knives that I was like, ooh, I really like this knife, but I'm not sure I can put it on the list. And one of those is my Knife Center exclusive CGRB large feldspar. I love this knife. This is one of my favorite knives. Did I call this a feldspar? This is the pyrite. The Knife Center exclusive large pyrite. I love this knife. I really love this knife. But I think a lot of my love for this knife comes from the exclusive element of it. I love the carbon fiber, the gold, and everything. Is the large pyrite itself one of my favorite knives? No. So I'm not putting this on the list for that reason. This particular knife itself, one of my favorites, but the large pyrite, not necessarily one of my favorites. So we're leaving that off. And again, that's a video I can make too. Like, what are my most aesthetically pleasing knives? That would be a video all by itself, but we're not doing that. Okay, now let's go ahead and get a couple of honorable mentions out of the way just because I want to get some honorable mentions mentioned. So the Civivi Baby Banter, love this knife. This is a classic. This is one of my favorite small knives. I think this is just an incredibly smart, just incredible knife design. Didn't quite make the list. Another one, this might surprise you, CRKT Tuna. This one, you know, I love this knife. Didn't make the list. This is I think this is one of the best EDC knife designs ever. This is a Lucas Burnley design. This is a fantastic knife. Mine's the regular 8CR version. There have been exclusive versions of this knife with like D2 and S35VN. I've missed out on all of those, and sometimes I kind of regret that. But this knife itself is just so good that I still carry my 8CR version every now and again. Great knife. I absolutely love that one. Kershaw Bare Knuckle. This is an absolute classic. Love this knife. Did not quite make the list. Bestech Knives Horus. Very close to making the list. Did not quite make the list. Very, very close. This is a knife that I sold this a few years back and to a buddy, and then just a few months ago, actually maybe getting gone close to a year ago now, I got it back from him. I traded him a 80 20.5 and some other knife and got this back, and I'm glad I have it. 80 20.5 is not on this list. I've owned 3 of those, and I've gotten rid of 2 of them, and the one I still have is my serrated Shark's Foot 1, which I don't really carry that much anymore. CGRB Scoria, love this knife, incredible knife. Again, almost made the list, but just barely missed out. And last honorable mention, you would not believe how close this knife came to being on the list. My Cold Steel Espada XL. I love this knife. It's so fun. It's such a fun knife. It's so much fun. It stands out in my collection. This is definitely a conversation piece. I love showing this off to friends because it's just wildly ridiculous. So this knife brings me a whole lot of joy, but I don't think I could put it on the list. So, with all that out of the way, I know we're very far into the video, but let's go ahead and finally start with my 15 favorite knives in my collection. We're going to start off with the WE Knives Minax, and this is one of the more expensive knives in my collection. For a long time, this was the most expensive knife in my collection. I sold quite a few knives and saved up one summer and bought this. And I love this knife. I love Ferrum Forge designs. And this knife here, when I first got it, I wasn't crazy about the action, but I've carried this so much that the action has gotten just absolutely beautiful. And this is one thing that I think sometimes gets overlooked in this hobby is once you put a couple of years of use on a knife, it takes a completely different personality. It changes forms. But I really, really love this knife. The ergos are great. The blade is awesome. I still carry this on special occasions sometimes. It's a mean looking knife. Nasty looking knife. Absolutely love this thing. It's a very, very cool knife. One thing that was pointed out to me by Lefty EDC is that the end of this thing looks like a penis. And you know what? The handles do look like a penis. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of can't unsee that now, but still just an excellent, excellent knife. And by the way, this list is in no particular order, except maybe the last couple of ones, but yeah, great, great knife. All right, let's move on to one that might be a little bit surprising, maybe not, if you guys have been following the channel. The Sincut Waxahachie. This is also a knife that I've reviewed recently, so it might be, kind of that recency bias, but I love this knife. I have carried this knife extensively. I have carried this knife more than just about any other knife that I've reviewed in recent years. I absolutely love this thing. Absolutely love it. This is an evergreen knife model if I've ever seen one, and I think it's such a shame that Sincut has discontinued these. All of my favorite Sincut knives have been discontinued for some reason. But this is, and heck, most of my favorite Civivis too, for that matter. But this is just an excellent, excellent knife. Great EDC fixed blade. It's the kind of EDC fixed blade that, I can use it as an EDC fixed blade, but it's also big enough and it's got the right shape to, kind of be pushed into some more, outdoor roles. It's obviously not a hard use fixed blade, but I've used this out on the ranch, cutting hay string, cutting irrigation tarps, things like that, and it's wonderful, wonderful knife. I'm a big, big fan of the Sincut Waxahachie. Next up, I mentioned ranch work. My Cold Steel 4MAX Scout. This is a knife that I haven't had on the channel in a while, and honestly, this is a knife I haven't carried in a while. And for a long time, it was sitting in a storage unit at my parents' place, but I recently went and dug it out and brought it back because I just missed it. I like this knife. Andrew Demko design, big folding knife. Like, this is a huge folding knife, but it's very functional. This is a very, very functional knife. I absolutely love the 4MAX Scout. One summer working in the woods, we were doing a lot of fence building in the upper peaks of this ranch I was working for. And so we're getting up there around 11,000 feet. We're having to climb these pretty big mountains. And to get up there, we had to clear some trails. There was going to be trees blown down on the fence. So I was carrying a chainsaw in addition to all of my fencing gear. So I was wearing my utility belt, and that belt had, like a big pouch. And so in that belt, I was carrying my hammer, my fence and pliers, staples, tie wire, some T-post clips, a T-post clip tool. And then on my other side, I was carrying splice wire, big roll of splice wire. And then I also had to add to my belt, the oil and a little bit of gas for the chainsaw. And of course, I was carrying the chainsaw over my shoulder. And I realized that because I was so low down with all this gear, I didn't really have room on my belt for my fixed blade. And so I just started carrying the 4MAX. And I carried this in place of a fixed blade knife the entire, I think it was 3 weeks that we were working in that area. And this is definitely a folding knife that can do fixed blade tasks. So love that knife, absolutely love that knife. And the review that I filmed for the 4MAX Scout was actually one of my favorite reviews that I'd ever filmed for a long time. Because you can go back and watch it. I did film a couple of segments for that video out in the mountains while I was working. I remember the one video I filmed was down by the river. It's gorgeous. I thought it was really, really beautiful. So love that knife. Next up, this was kind of from the same era of the channel as that. The Bestech Paladin. I love this knife. I absolutely love this knife. To this day, I maintain that this is probably one of the greatest budget knives ever made. D2, G10, inset liners, Great action. This is the Tonto version, and I think it's just an amazing Tonto. This is very useful blade shape. Love the jimping up here. Love the ergos. Oh, I love the ergos on this thing so much. This is a knife that I have carried extensively, and I haven't carried it in a while because, again, like I'm a knife reviewer, I got to carry other things. But yeah, this is a knife that if I were to stop this channel tomorrow, this is a knife that I would go back to carrying quite often. I did dye these scales myself. They used to be a tan version, but I love the Bestech Paladin. And you're going to be seeing a lot of Bestech knives on this list, which is kind of ironic because I haven't reviewed a whole lot of Bestechs, but I love Bestech as a brand. I think they're really cool, and they release so many models that I'm really into, but just don't get around to them. Next up, we're going to be going back to cold steel. The 8010. I love the 8010. This, in my mind, is the classiest, hardest use knife you can get. One of the most comfortable folding knives you'll ever hold. I recently reviewed the cold steel, the 8010 Lite, and I had the Tonto version. I love that one too. I think I do prefer the G10, and I don't know if I prefer the Tonto or the drop point. I think I prefer the looks of the drop point, but the Tonto is just amazingly utilitarian. But just a great knife. I'm a sucker for Demko designs. This is not the last Demko design you'll see on this list. But great knife. Got all kinds of fingerprints on it. One thing, I wish they'd release a version of this that has the stonewashed finish that the Formax Scout does. I love cold steel stonewash. It's beautiful. The satin, they do a beautiful satin too, but it feels kind of out of place on their hard use knives. But just beautiful. I love the G10 scales too. These are like some of the best G10 scales you'll ever find, in my opinion. And maybe one of these days, I've been thinking about upgrading my 8010 Lite with some original goat scales. So we'll see if I end up doing that. Okay, next. The Devo Knives Growler. I absolutely love this design. Absolutely love it. This is a fantastic folding knife design that I feel transitions very cleanly from like regular EDC tasks to food prep to even outdoor applications. This is just a winner of a design. It's basically all belly, but you have a low tip, which is something that you don't necessarily see. That's a hard balance to strike with a knife. The ergos are amazing. This is the version 2. I do prefer the version 2 over the version 1. The jimping up here is fantastic. Aluminum scales. I'm a sucker for blue, so you know this version here, obviously, I was going to be a fan of. Love the clip, and you can see here, mine is very scuffed up. We've got scratches and stuff. I've carried the heck out of this. I think there's even a little bit of rust right here. Need to clean this guy up, but this is a knife that I absolutely love. Just a fantastic knife design here. Mwah! Chef's kiss. You know, Devo Knives, Kevin and Colin over there, they know what they're doing. And I should also say too, there are a lot of knives that I've handled that would be on this list if I own them. Like the Sharp by Design Evo. Oh my goodness, I love that knife. But I don't own one. I've handled it, I've reviewed it, but I don't own one. And the Demko 8020, like the actual one, handled one, reviewed it, don't own it, but it would definitely be on this list. Wonderful knife. I should also mention that every single knife on this list, I do have a full review for. Actually, one of them I do not have a review for, but I do have a video about it. So you can search my channel and find videos on each of these knives, so if you're interested. Also, you like the hat? Little throwback to the 2010s. Still got the stickers on there and everything, like a degenerate. Yeah, I don't typically wear snapbacks like this, but this is a hat that I bought because I thought it looked cool, and we'll bring it out for a video. Anyways, next knife we're going to talk about. This is a newer knife, but this is a knife that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I'm pretty confident in saying this is one of my favorite knives of all time. It's the Bestech Slasher. I love this knife. I absolutely love this knife. This is such an easy knife for me to put in my pocket, no matter what I'm doing. this is a knife that, and this is the large slasher, I should mention. No matter what I'm doing, this is a go-to. I've carried this out in the field, carried this on the ranch, I carried this around town. It's just an excellent, excellent knife. Absolutely love this, pretty much everything about this knife. Great crossbar lock action. Great ergos. Oh my goodness, ergos are fantastic. Very useful sheep's foot blade. Yeah, this is a great knife. There's really not a whole lot to complain about with this thing. In fact, I can't remember if I probably only had a couple of complaints when I reviewed this knife back in January. But awesome, awesome knife. I love it. Okay, let's go on to a knife that all of you are probably expecting to see on the list. Cold Steel SRK. I love this knife. This is my favorite fixed blade knife. This is, I think, the best survival / outdoor knife you can buy for the money. I mean, these are under 50 bucks. This thing is just awesome. I'm glad that I got, this is my second one with the green handle. Glad I got this one because my original SRK was stolen, my all black one, which sucks because that was a very sentimental knife to me. I absolutely loved that knife and I miss it dearly. I wanted to hang it on my wall as kind of a memento, a little testament to good days. But SRK, amazing knife. I have so many videos on this knife on this channel. In fact, my most watched long form content is about this knife. Just a wonderful, wonderful knife. I really feel like there's nothing else to say because I think I've said everything there is to say about this knife. Just an amazing knife. And to this day, this is my go-to fixed blade knife for just about anything. Working out in the woods, doing field work, whatever I'm doing, camping, hiking, that is the knife that I put on my belt. I absolutely love that knife. All right, next up, a little bit of a wild card maybe, but this is a knife that I do truly, truly love. The Tucson TS301. Definitely the best knife that Tucson has ever made, in my opinion. Made a couple shorts about this the other day that maybe you guys will see. I'm trying to think about my upload schedule eventually. But great knife. Fantastic action. Carbon fiber, micarta, titanium lino lock. And look at this Bowie blade. I have a soft spot for Bowies. I love Bowie knives. Absolutely love Bowie knives. And this here, this is like a traditional fighting Bowie knife that you took right out of history, grabbed it right out of the Wild West and turned it into a modern day folder. I mean, this is what you would get. I love this knife. It's so cool. I love the carbon fiber bolsters. You know, they've got such a nice sheen to them. 14C 28N blade. I think nowadays these are D2, but I was able to get one that's 14C 28N. Love this knife. This knife has cut the crap out of me. I've told this story so many times, but you know, that scar there. I have no feeling in the end of my finger because of this knife. It cut all the way to the bone and did a lot of nerve damage. That was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, and I still have no feeling in the end of this finger. So yeah, it's a pretty, pretty incredible cut. The scar actually doesn't look all that impressive. I mean, you can see it there. The scar doesn't look all that impressive, but it bled a whole lot. You see there's like a little divot in my finger. And yeah, the fact that I no longer have any feeling out there, it's definitely earned its spot as one of the worst knife cuts I've ever had, if not the worst. But yeah, great knife. Super slicey. Very, very slicey. But I love the action. I love the looks. This is honestly one of the most beautiful knives I think I own. I absolutely love this. The micarta is not necessarily my favorite, but it's a big step up from some of the micarta that Tucson has used in the past. This one, you might see there's some like blue discoloration. Yeah, when I was carrying this, I used to carry this knife all the time, and like the blue from my blue jeans would sweat through and kind of stain these scales. I thought about, I need to do something with these scales, do some kind of treatment on them, but I haven't got around to it. I haven't decided exactly what I want to do with them yet. Next up, this is another knife that is actually a fairly recent release and a recent addition to my collection. It's the Civivi Vision FG. I love this knife. I really love this knife. I think this is the best knife Civivi has made in a very, very long time. Someone fell on my face. Great blade shape. I love the lock. I love the ergos. The action's amazing. This is also like that slasher. This is a knife that is a go-to for a lot of different applications that I constantly find myself in. I've carried this knife doing field work. I've carried this knife camping. I've carried this knife working on the ranch. This is a great knife. Just an all-around great knife. I love pairing this knife with my Cold Steel SRK. I think these make an absolutely excellent adventure pair. Drop me off in the woods with these two knives and I'm good to go, right? We got our big heavy duty stuff. We've got this for, lighter duty tasks, but it's still a very capable knife that can be pushed pretty hard. I just really enjoy it. I think this is a fantastic design, and I have a new Grail knife that I'm almost afraid to get. The tactile knife Chupacabra is a knife that I really, really want. I think it looks amazing. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of this Civivi Vision FG. It has the same lock and a very similar blade shape. It's made in the USA. It's called a Chupacabra, which, I'm from New Mexico. I grew up hearing stories about the Chupacabra all the time. But I'm kind of afraid to get that knife because I could absolutely see that knife being like my one and only folding knife. Like I could see that, depending on how good that knife is, like I could see that being the knife to replace all knives. Like that would be the one that kills my enjoyment of the hobby. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm done. Definitely want to get that knife on the channel. It's a little bit pricey, but actually not unobtainable, right? I do want to get that knife eventually. So we'll see what happens, but Civivi Vision FG for a knife that's, around the $80 price point, this is hard to beat. This is an absolutely amazing tool, and it's just fantastic. Fantastic. Excuse me, getting the hiccups. Okay, next up, we were talking about how much I love buoys and Bestech. The Bestech Knives Bowie Tie. This was kind of my very first Grail. This was a knife I wanted for a very long time, saved up, and I bought it. This was a knife that this was a Grail knife before I got my Minax. The reason I bought the Minax was because it went on sale. It was a knife I'd had my eye on, but it went on sale. So it was typically a $260 knife or something. And I was able to catch it on a sale for like $198 or something, $199, something like that. So I bought that knife. But this knife, I saved up. And I think this was $280, something like that. I bought the Bestech Bowie Tie. It is the most expensive folding knife that I own. Not the most expensive knife I've reviewed on the channel, but the most expensive knife that I've ever bought. And I love it so much. The carbon fiber looks amazing. I'm a sucker for bolsters. This is a bolster lock, so I love when you have that symmetry of the inlays on both sides of the knife. We got that here. Obviously, it's a buoy, which I absolutely love, and the action is just incredible, incredible. And there's so much here that I enjoy. The ergonomics are great. The kind of performance is really nice, but there's so many things that I found myself enjoying that I didn't know I would enjoy just from looking at pictures. One of the things is like this kind of jeweled pivot collar. I love the way that thing catches the light. I'm a big sucker for pivot collars anyways, but that is amazing. I think that's just so beautiful. The titanium has a stonewash finish. It feels really, really nice. The whole thing is very slightly contoured, Got a little landing pad after you flip it. It's a wonderful, wonderful knife, and I love it. I love it dearly. This is a knife that I wear, that I carry with me for fancy occasions. I went to my cousin's wedding a while back. This was the knife I carried. Yeah, I've carried this for another wedding. It wasn't my cousin, it was a friend of a friend. I'm really not sure why I was invited to that wedding, but I was. And I carried this knife. I've carried it for a couple of funerals. But yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful knife. Absolutely love it. Next up, this is the knife that I don't have a review on because by the time I got this knife, it was already discontinued. But this is the Civivi Statira. I absolutely adore this knife, and I think this is the best knife Civivi has ever made. The ergos are super comfortable. I mean, it's a toss-up between this and the Vision FG. It's a toss-up. The Vision FG I might like better as a tool, but this knife here I absolutely love this knife so much, so much. I think it just looks very classy. I did dye mine. This used to be the tan version. I dyed mine kind of this royal blue. I like the gold liners. I think they're very cool. Some people don't like those. I thought they were awesome. Titanium clip, and this blade is just a good looking blade. The whole knife just looks excellent. I cannot stress enough how good the ergonomics are. This is one of the most comfortable folding knives I've ever felt. The action is amazing. Oh my gosh, I love this knife. Sometimes I can reverse flick it. Let's see. Yeah. I bought another one of these that I gave to Austin, and I really wish I'd bought another one and given it to my dad. I wish I had another one for me because this is a great little knife, and they're kind of hard to find these days. But yeah, again, I never reviewed this knife because it was already discontinued by the time I got it. I did make a video though talking about this knife that's a long, long time ago. So maybe if you guys are interested, maybe I'll make a full-length video on this knife. But it's just definitely one of my favorite knives of all time. I love this thing so much. And I've heard people compare the ergonomics on this to the Hinderer Jurassic. That is one of my real knives too, the Hinderer Jurassic. Number one, it's dinosaur themed, heck yeah. But if the ergonomics are similar to the Statira, then yeah, I'm all about that. I'm all about that because that knife has phenomenal ergos. Phenomenal. All right, down to the final three. Next up, the CJRB Pyrite. I love the Pyrite. This is a go-to knife. This particular version here was actually sent to the channel by Old Tonto Guy. He donated a bunch of stuff to the channel. I decided to keep this knife. This one had some issues with button stick, which I still need to post that video. I recorded myself fixing the button stick issues on this knife, and I haven't edited. I filmed that way back in, oh my gosh, when was that? February? I think I filmed it all the way back in February, and I have not got around to editing it together yet. But yeah, I love the Pyrite as a design. This is a Knife Center exclusive titanium clip, titanium bolsters. This is one of those knives where this particular version is one of my favorite knives in my collection for different reasons. Like, I do like the aesthetics of this knife a lot better, but also Old Tonto Guy is a longtime friend of the channel. He's a channel member, really awesome guy, and so you know, this has some sentimental value in that regard. But the Pyrite itself is just an amazing knife. I'm very impressed with the Pyrite. It's a smaller knife, but it feels like a big knife, and it's a knife that I've enjoyed so much that I have carried it while I've been doing field work, which is not something that I would typically do with a knife like this, but I love the Pyrite. And in a similar vein, the Feldspar. Absolutely love the CJRB Feldspar. I released a video just recently talking about my entire Feldspar collection. This is my most recent Feldspar, and I also released a full review of this recently. Go check those videos out. No one watched those videos for some reason. I'm not sure why, but the Feldspar is just an incredible knife design. I love the Feldspar in all its iterations. I think it is absolutely, without question, one of the greatest budget EDC knife designs ever, if not the greatest. I think this is an absolutely phenomenal knife, a phenomenal tool. They nailed the ergos, they nailed the blade. This is the button lock version. You know, they nailed the action. The liner locks have great action too. It's an incredible knife. absolutely incredible knife. It's an all-time classic, and yeah, I don't foresee me ever not loving the feldspar. It's just, mwah. It's an amazing, amazing knife. All right, last knife, and this is one that a lot of you probably saw coming. This is my all-time favorite knife design. This is a knife that I have not showed enough on the channel recently. The Cold Steel 8015. I have three of these. I have two of the S35VN versions. I have an 8015 Lite. This is my favorite 8015. You can see how a lot of my favorite knives get used very, very frequently. This one has the scales that I dyed blue from the green. It doesn't show up all that much when I have the other one, my green one here to compare against. You can see it a lot better. I've actually been considering getting another one of these because Cold Steel released some new versions with like black blades, and some of those look really, really nice. Might get some of those, but I just love the 8015. This is an incredible knife, and this is a knife that takes me back to the early days of the knife hobby. You know, I said the Bestech Bowie Tie was my first Grail knife. Is actually probably this knife here. This was a knife that I absolutely wanted to get my hands on. I love the Scorpion Lock. This is a knife that I've abused the snot out of. I've carried my 8015s in some pretty crazy environments. I love the ergos. I love the look. I love the Scorpion Lock. This is absolutely the knife that gives me the most. It gives me the fizz to steal a Wrangler Star term. I love everything about this knife. It makes me so deeply happy. I can't really even explain it. But I love the 8015. I need to carry mine more. I need to find more excuses to carry this knife because it's just so damn good. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Long one, I know. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what some of your favorite knives are. Big shout out to my channel members right here. If you want to become a channel member, you can join the link below. These are my members at the cowboy level. We've got a couple at the nerd level too. And speaking of like joining the channel and stuff, we're almost to 3,000 subscribers, and we will be doing some giveaways when we hit 3,000 subscribers. So if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.